Hello my soccer universe. This week's short talk video is maybe not a super cheery one, however it concerns a rather remarkable news about a cult brand, I would say. I'm talking about the bankruptcy of Coq Sportif. But before we go into my memory, experiences and so on with Coq Sportif, I want to read you an article that I found on the sneaker blog that I thought best describes what's going on at Coq Sportif. It goes, despite reporting a 30% increase in revenue of 82 million euros for the first half of 2024, the iconic French sportswear brand also reported widening losses of around 18 million euros, which was up from 10.5 million euros compared to the same period from the previous year. Coq Sportif attributed the losses to increased sales and marketing spend as competition has become fiercer and wallets have become tighter. Sportswear brands and retailers have had to dramatically increase brand exposure. With the current retail industry headwinds, it really is a winners and losers games. The Paris Commercial Court has granted the French sportswear brand a 6-month observation period to facilitate the company's restructuring efforts. The move aims to address the brand's financial challenges while safeguarding the jobs of its 330 employees. Founded all the way back in 1882, so a really old brand, the brand has kitted out everyone from Tour de France legends to elite track athletes. It was back in the 1970s and 1980s when the brand really rose to prominence on the backs of some of the greatest football players. Worn by the likes of Diego Maradona with Argentina, Johan Cruyff with Ajax and Glenn Hoddle with Tottenham. This French sportswear brand dominated top-tier football leagues of the era, sponsoring shirts all the way from Ajax to Everton. In other accounts I've read, there were of course many loans given, especially ahead of the Paris Olympics, where Coq Sportif equipped the French Olympic team. And I guess this was the last big exposure for the brand. But the article also states that the glory days of Coq Sportif were just ahead of my time getting into the game in the 1980s. Heck, the first ever football game that I watched, which was the 1986 World Cup final, was won by a team wearing Coq Sportif, which was of course Argentina with Diego Maradona, and even more importantly, the most famous goal or the greatest goal of all time, at least by FIFA, was also scored by Diego Maradona wearing Coq Sportif, although in a very special configuration. I think I've made a video about that you can find here as well. With that said, Coq Sportif was not on the forefront of my mind when I got into football. This was an era dominated by the likes of Adidas, a little bit of Puma here and there with the Austrian national team, and you saw some odd brands here and there, like for instance Lotto that came in big. You saw Hummel with the Denmark national team, but Coq Sportif I only noticed with Spain wearing it at the 1990 World Cup. At Euro 1992, for instance, which was the first tournament where I really saw every game, Coq Sportif wasn't present anymore, and at the 1994 World Cup they were also gone. So the glory days of Coq Sportif definitely were in the 1980s, probably even the 1970s, where they released some really iconic shirts. So my memories with Coq Sportif are not the tightest ones. However, when you study the history of the game and you see Maradona wearing that jersey, lifting the World Cup trophy, and you see this cockerel logo, it's Coq Sportif, and then you see this over and over again, you realize that this was a truly historic brand that had fallen a little bit on rough times. I think they were heavily involved in the Premier League in the 1990s, so in the early years of the Premier League, but I feel that their last big contract was definitely kitting out Fiorentina, and they came up with one of the most celebrated lines of the 2010s when they released in 17-18, this is the 17-18 home jersey, 4 alternates. And this was just before the time when teams released up to 5-6 jerseys. It was almost unheard of. I mean, yes, Dortmund came out with 4 jerseys a season at that time, and there were some celebration jerseys, but that a full line with 5 jerseys coming out, there Coq Sportif was a little bit ahead of its time. And it also did not receive as much backlash because it was really rooted in Florence, the idea of having a purple shirt representing all of Florence, and then 4 alternate jerseys representing the historic neighborhoods of the city. So we had a white one, we had a red one, we had a green and a blue one, the latter 2 rather unusual colors for Fiorentina. Maybe the one sign that things are not so great for Coq Sportif is that they repeated that then for the upcoming 2 years as well, which I found a little bit, yes, first time around, great idea. Repeating it, can you be a little bit more creative? that was my opinion on that as well. I love this jersey, and it's my only Le Coq Sportif jersey in the collection. I wish I had a few more, but honestly, as of late, Le Coq Sportif didn't have as many great teams. I think the closest I came was buying a Cameroon shirt, actually the one that they would have worn at the 2022 World Cup if Cameroon had not unilaterally killed off that contract, which still rather leaves a bad taste in my mouth. My biggest regret with Le Coq Sportif is that I never saw a French football team, national football team, wear Le Coq Sportif, because it would fit so nice together. You have the cockerel logo, would have the French rooster here on the chest as well. I think it would have looked quite nice and would have given it a totally French identity. I would love to see national teams wear brands that are actually from their country. For instance, an Italian team should always wear an Italian brand. A German team, yes, should always be Adidas, for instance. But in this modern world, everything gets a little bit turned upside down. So yeah, I guess it's not happening. We did see it though with the French rugby national team. However, this also, as far as I know, ended in the courts. Not good. The last hooray for me for Le Coq Sportif was at the Olympics with the French Olympic team. I first realized it when the rugby team won their final, and that looked actually quite interesting. I think it would have been a great alternative shirt, for instance, for a France football team as well. But yeah, it's a brand that holds high historic significance to me, but it is not that I feel gutted like if I would see an Adidas or a Puma go, where I have much closer connections, and especially in Austria, I think Le Coq Sportif were never really that present. Still, I would love if there's some way that this brand can continue, that we see this logo again, that most importantly the employees are being kept on or find a solution that doesn't see them go into unemployment. I think this is for me the most important out of it all. But seeing that brand go on would be a really nice thing. As of now, by the end of the season, Le Coq Sportif will terminate all contracts. I think they only have Nice and Troyes in France. And then we may not see them for a while. And so yeah, farewell Le Coq Sportif, and I really hope to see sometime a bigger team wear Le Coq Sportif again. So yeah, as I said, not necessarily the cheeriest video, but I thought it is interesting to shine a light on a much less celebrated brand nowadays, but one that had really high significance roughly 50 years ago. Let me know your thoughts on Le Coq Sportif in the comments below. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. Subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos like these. And I will talk to you soon about more things in my soccer universe. Bye! Hey there! I really hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did, here are some videos and playlists that you may enjoy too. Also, please consider subscribing to my channel and hit the little bell icon so you get notified whenever something happens in my soccer universe. And with that, have a wonderful day. Bye!